or a little further extreme that they have to be outsourced. You know, so it's a delicate mixture. You know.
Thank you.
Mr. Cobb, what was the amount increase last year as far as percentage that the school district put into place? I can't remember. What was the number?
We have a new program to reassess all the properties in the county. What type of an impact do you think that will have?
So they did that, I guess, roughly 10 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah, every 10 years.
Yeah.
2000, okay, longer than that. So, and it didn't affect us in a bad sense. It kept things, actually keeps things relatively level, is what it did back then. It'll be interesting to see this go around, what the effect will be.
The charter school receives $32,000 for
In
each
that range, approximately, yes.
student. And for the other students, it's about $8,000.
11,000.
11,000, okay, excuse me. So, couldn't we argue with the state that, you know, when these, if we're paying this much for these students, we should have our funding per capita for the student populations?
Well, that's
Just, this is what we gave you before, we're gonna give you a little more.
Well, that's a good point that you raised. So, how they come to that figure is a formula that is actually generated by the state. So the state generates the formula, and they basically tell you off of your prior year expenditure, plug it into this spreadsheet, and so going to the state to say, hey, you did it wrong, and can you correct it? That's what everything's about. That's what the funding formula lawsuit's about. That's what this whole thing is about. The state basically set that process in place, or set the mechanism in place to calculate that amount. They put this in place, we're following the state's guidelines, and, you know, tough luck.
Before I forget,
Thank you.
sorry.
Thank you.
Before I forget, can you elaborate on?
Several charter schools between Mortar and Cyber. We have approximately, I want to gather anywhere from around 20, on that list, about 20 charter schools between brick and mortar and Cyber. I mean, the biggest ones, there are a couple that are the big item ones, but we service several of them.
And Mr. McKenna, you struck on an interesting point, is that a special ed student doesn't always cost $30,000 to remediate. The case in Chester was that Chester Chester community claims they have a population of 30% speech and language issues. For each of those children, they were getting $30,000. Well, a typical speech and language issue in a district is about 6 or 7%. So that their number that was so much higher seemed a little funny, not in the humorous way. And typically, those children would only take 5,000 to 6,000 to give special services to over a year. So they were actually getting double what they needed to do their job. It's a loophole in the charter laws, and the charter schools use it, right? And they will pick and choose their special needs that they will take, right? They're not going to take everyone like we do and appreciate doing. They are going to pick and choose their special needs. The ones that are more expensive, they are not going to take the speech and language, or if they can qualify a student for speech and language, they will take those.
So go back to the formula you talked about, and this is what Ms. Hoff had just touched on. So when we populate that calculation that generates the special ed reimbursement amount, we calculate all of our high-end students. When I say high-end, those students who require additional services. Because we have, for example, we have several students that cost anywhere $150,000, $200,000 to educate. They're in that range. We have several of them. So when we add all those costs in and we average them all out, that is taken into account, those $150,000, $200,000 students. And again, it bumps up your amount. And as Ms. Hoffman said, they're going to get reimbursed assuming that they have those high-end students. When they don't, they're not. They'll never take those students. It doesn't make sense for them to do it.
what you're saying is that the charter profitability,
Exactly.
Yes.
They don't put it that
Got
way.
it.
They
You
don't,
said that.
they don't
Well,
say
you
that.
can.
well, that's how I read it.
Yeah.
Well,
I can
that's,
say.
yeah. To answer your question, yes. I mean, in a nutshell, that, I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's, it works out there. It can work out that way, yes.
That the state can't figure that out. I mean, really,
Well,
that's,
They
Well,
won't. It's not they can't, they won't.
I don't think it's a matter of them not being able to, it's, again, so I'll go back to what I said before. Until it starts hitting other zip codes, it doesn't become an issue. It's not affecting anyone else right now, it's only affecting certain areas. So right now, the necessity isn't there for anyone else to sit there and sit, because, so I'll go back to this. So, go back to the whole harmless agreement, like I stated before. They don't wanna take the subsidy away from anyone else. So, until it hits home with other places. So what you're seeing now, and so recently there's been some conversation regarding charter schools. So they're saying, okay, possibly we could cap cyber charter schools, or possibly we could do this, we could do other things regarding regarding charter schools. Well, you may ask the question, why is that? Well, the question is because now it's starting to trickle out and hit outside of the William Penn, it's starting to hit outside of Southeast Delco, it's starting to hit outside of Upper Darby. So it's starting to hit other places, so now it's sparking conversations on a slightly broader spectrum than what it has before. Up until this point, it was only us. And it was like, okay, well, you guys, that's not an issue. So now it's become an issue with other folks.
So,
So they
one
don't
other-
want to take money from good schools to give to.
Right.
not to
And going
give
back
to
to
poorer
the-
districts.
yes, going back to the question that you asked, Darlene, about special ed and, you know, us seeming to get more, having to pay more with special ed and lawsuits and things like that. That is not just a William Penn issue. I meet with districts, you know, the superintendents, we meet once a month, and that is a concern for everybody, that there just seems to be this high, interest in suing districts. And, districts usually do not win when it comes to that.
As well, but they're a business.
They're
And they
for-profit.
They're for profit, so they have a marketing program, they have a marketing team, they have, so keep in mind, so let's go back and let's talk about, and again, Mark, I apologize if I go off track here, but let me just finish this. So, let's go back to their bottom line. Our bottom line is trying to stay afloat, and as the state told us, keep the lights on, keep the doors open. That's what the state told us, that's our bottom line. If I'm a charter school, their bottom line is bring a kid in for less money than what they're putting out. So your special ed child, your special ed needs kid, they're bringing the child in, providing services at approximately $20,000 less than what we're paying them. So their bottom line, their profit margin is so, and I hate to use a profit margin when we're talking about educating children, but they're a business. They have a marketing program, and that's what they're there for. Everyone who's here has heard the commercials. Everyone who's here has heard it on the radio, on TV. It's free. It's free. It's not free. So we'll go back to that's the thing. So if you look. Visions has a fund balance, and I'm not targeting Vision, but I'm just using them as an example. They have a fund balance that we don't have. How did they get their fund balance? Us, you.
In 3 years, they've
Yeah.
got a fund balance
There's
that's
a-
triple ours.
There's a,
And I don't mean to target it, but I just use them examples. But we've had a company come in, and they did a study on charter schools. Most of these charter schools have these humongous fund balances. Because they're running a business, they're running a profit. We're talking, and everyone wants to say, oh, well, you're the same. It's not the same. We're talking apples and we're talking grapes. It's two totally different mechanisms, two totally different animals, what you're talking about.
And I think one thing the public is misled by, that this is free. This is taxpayers' dollars going into these charter schools, and we have no say so how that money is spent. So nothing is free.
There's also a relatively new term. We had PCCY at our district, and they did a forum with Senator Williams, and it's stranded costs. That is the difference of cost between what we pay them and what they spend on the student. And in some cases, millions of dollars of profit.
Okay, I think right for the time, again, this wasn't an attempt to go in on charts, so this was an attempt to show you what our costs are gonna be and what our major costs are gonna be for the years coming up. So it's gonna be, we know we have to provide education for all of our students, provide education for our special ed students, keep the buildings open, keep them clean, keep them warm, and this is what we wanted to show, what we have and the expenses are, and why we're struggling with getting revenue in, because there's only been so much, because again, it is not, no one here, and you guys know just as well as no one wants to tax anyone, no one wants to tax anything else, but unfortunately, this is the only mechanism that the state has provided us at this particular point.
Mr. Cuff, one thing, if the state is obligated by the Constitution to provide the funding for the schools, why do the charter schools siphon their money from the public schools instead of directly from the state? And let the state pay the charter schools?
There's lots of questions like that.
They don't.
Constitution says to adequately fund.
I would love to answer that question, but Mr. Brown has a camera on me, and,
I'll turn it off.
No,
I can't hear you.
It's a legitimate question. I mean, quite honestly.
That's what the lawsuit's
Yeah,
about.
exactly. That's what the lawsuit's about. I mean, again, I'll go back to what I said. No one wants to deal with it, quite frankly. It's not affecting other folks. You know, and it's not affecting other zip codes. Point blank. So no one wants to deal with it until it comes into their backyard. In a nutshell. I mean, that's the cleanest way I can put it.
Thank you.
Sorry to Mark Polly, let me take all their time.
More questions? Okay, Thank you, Luella. Thank you.